South Korean President Moon Jae-in visited Swami Narayan Akshardham Hindu Temple, a spiritual cultural campus, on Sunday evening in India's capital, New Delhi. Accompanying him was his wife Kim Jong-suk and several other officials. Jae-in and Jong-suk participated in various rituals at the temple and offered prayers and understood about the architecture of the temple. The president and Jong-suk landed in New Delhi earlier in the day. Soybeans farmers in Illinois are worried about their livelihood as trade tension between the world's two largest economies rises. Despite repeated calls from farmers for alternative measures, the Trump administration implemented levies Chinese goods. Now, China retaliated with similar measures, including 25% tariff on U.S. soybeans. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo met with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in Tokyo one day after his latest talks in Pyongyang with North Korean officials. Pompeo had met with Japanese Foreign Minister Kono earlier in the day and was scheduled for trilateral talks with South Korean Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa on Sunday. The American bishop who delivered the barnstorming sermon at the wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, winning praise across the internet, led a prayer service outside a Texas immigration facility. Reverend Michael Curry, the bishop for the Episcopal Church, led the crowd in chants of "Love is the way." The group, which included numerous clergy members, chanted "You are not alone" in English and Spanish. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo arrived in Hanoi, Vietnam on a two-day official visit to discuss methods to strengthen the two countries' strategic partnership, as well as discussing regional issues, including North Korea's denuclearization. Pompeo met General Secretary of the Communist Party, Nguyen Phu Trong, and will meet Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc and Foreign Minister Pham Binh Minh on Monday. The UN Myanmar investigator said that the conditions in Myanmar were not conducive for the repatriation of Rohingya refugees. Yang Lee spoke at a news conference in Dhaka on the situation of human rights of Rohingya crisis. She dismissed concerns that recognizing Rohingyas as refugees would not allow them to repatriate. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang met with heads of governments from Bosnia and Herzegovina, also called the BIH, Montenegro and Czech respectively, in Sofia, Bulgaria. They attended the 7th Leaders Meeting of China and 16 Central and Eastern European countries. When meeting with BIH Chairman of the Council of Ministers, Li said that China is ready to join BIH to focus on key fields and deepen pragmatic cooperation for common development. Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega rejected a demand for holding an early general election amid widespread demonstration by those who support and oppose his government. The government's move to crack down on demonstrations has resulted in the death of at least 310 people. Ortega reiterated that the elections should be held every 5 years by the country's constitution. Burnt cars and roadblocks dotted the highways in Haiti for a third day following anger over steep fuel prices in the Caribbean nation. The U.S. Embassy warned its citizens to avoid the unrest in the capital, Port-au-Prince, and reschedule any travel plans as several airlines cancelled flights. Prime Minister Jacques Guy Lafreniere announced the temporary suspension of double-digit government hikes to prices for gasoline, diesel and kerosene. A senior UN official has said that almost all the Syrians who fled an army offensive in the southwest to gather in the free trade zone at the Jordanian border have gone back into Syria. The United Nations says the Russian-backed offensive against insurgents has uprooted more than 300,000 in the past 2 weeks, the biggest exodus of the 7-year war. Israeli prosecutors charged a detained Turkish tourist on Sunday with smuggling perfume as part of an effort to help fund Palestinian Hamas militants. Ebru Oskan was arrested last month while trying to board a flight in Tel Aviv. She is among several Turks held by Israel on security grounds in recent months as it spars with the Islamist-rooted government over Palestinian-related disputes. Police and forensic scientists investigate into a wave of overnight violence that hit barbs across the city of Monterrey in northern Mexico. The Nuevo Leon State Prosecutor's Office reported in a statement that 12 people died in 6 bar attacks overnight in the municipalities of Monterrey, Guadalupe and Juarez. A store robbery attempt failed recently as his female cashier turned out to be a brave custodian and drove the robber out, only to later chase him down and handing him over to the police in Nanjing City, East China's Jiangsu province. The surveillance footage showed how the young man approached the cash counter and instead of taking out cash, he took out a knife from his pocket and pointed at the cashier. The cashier, however, not feeling threatened at all, started yelling at the man only to scare him and eventually forcing him to leave. The holiday fire in Southern California, Santa Barbara County burned through more than 100 acres and was 80% contained as an early Sunday. Santa Barbara County officials declared a local emergency on Saturday as the fast-moving wildfire destroyed 20 homes and other structures and forced more than 2,000 people to flee their homes. Days of continuous downpours have swept across much of China, causing flash floods, landslides and damage to city infrastructure in many cities across east and southwest China. In southwestern China's Rinhao city, heavy rain swelled a river in Jinggu County in East China's Jiangxi province, washing away a sightseeing wooden plank path on the riverside. The flood also caused heavy losses to local agriculture by inundating swathes of croplands and orchards. At least 75 people have been killed and over 1,800 people left stranded after rainfall and flooding hammered parts of Japan. The torrential downpours have caused flash flooding and landslides across central and western parts of the country, prompting evacuation orders for over 2 million people. Over 2 million people have been told to evacuate, but the orders are not mandatory and many remained at home, becoming trapped by rapidly rising water or sudden landslides. Heavy monsoon rains have been disrupting daily life in India's financial capital as Mumbai streets became waterlogged on Sunday due to poor infrastructure. Residents in Uttar Pradesh also fear flooding due to poor infrastructure, leading to the swelling of river Sarayu. Flooding is an annual problem during the monsoon season in South Asia, but the impact has worsened with crumbling civic infrastructure, clogged drains and uncontrolled urban expansion. India's northern hill state of Himachal Pradesh government announced a complete ban on the usage of disposable single-use thermocol cutlery, which will be effective after 3 months. The ban will extend to the use of thermocol cutlery. The notification also included a provision for imposing hefty fines on those selling and even using thermocol cutlery, extending up ranging from 500 rupees or $7 to around 25,000 rupees or $363, depending on the gravity of the offence. Business establishments and markets downed their shutters in Indian Kashmir's summer capital Srinagar on the death anniversary of separatist militant commander Burhan Wani on Sunday. After separatists called for a complete shutdown to commemorate the slain militant, Wani, a commander of militant organization Hizbul Mujahideen was gunned down by the Indian security forces in July 2016, which had triggered massive and often violent protests in the already trouble-torn valley. A group of differently able people in India's southern Chennai city have developed India's first exclusive bike taxi network, Maula, which translates to a ride with challenged. The service has all the drivers who are differently abled in some way. The bike taxi service, headed by two differently abled men, Balaji and Muhammad Gaddafi, was started 2 years ago and currently has more than 30 specially modified scooters in their fleet. Four fishermen belonging to India's southern Tamil Nadu state were arrested by Sri Lankan Navy on Sunday for allegedly poaching its territorial waters. The fishermen had gone out fishing when they were apprehended by the Sri Lankan Navy near Mandapam town in the early hours of the day and also seized their boat. The Sri Lankan Navy earlier on July 5th had arrested 12 other fishermen for Tamil Nadu for allegedly fishing in their waters. Thousands of revelers danced and cheered to celebrate LGBT rights in the World Pride Parade in Madrid, Spain. This comes 40 years after the country's first gay pride parade. A convoy of more than 50 floats snaked through central Madrid amid a carnival atmosphere as part of the celebration shutting down traffic in central Madrid. Pride parades are usually held in the late June or early July to mark the anniversary of the Stonewall riots of June 28, 1968. In which LGBT people protested harassment by the police. Close to 1 million people took to the streets of Cologne in Germany to celebrate gay pride. Revelers danced through the streets of the western German city, which calls itself one of Europe's centers for gay and lesbian life. Men wearing high heels were seen wearing colorful costumes, while some waved rainbow-colored flags as they promoted lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender rights. Florida snorkelers and divers combine their marine hobby with their interest in music. The annual Lower Keys Underwater Music Festival was held in Florida, which aims to help bring reef awareness to the public. 700 people attended the event, which takes place at the only living coral barrier reef in the United States. Festival goers dressed in marine costumes as a local radio station piped quirky music underwater for about 4 hours at the event. Syrian activists in the northwestern Syrian town of Binish wearing Russia 2018 World Cup mascots costumes take part in a performance to protest against Russia's role in the Syrian conflict and the bombings in Syria. The campaign uses a wolf and panda mascot to bring attention to the protest. Protesters said that Russia destroyed the pitches, buildings and infrastructures. They even caused the amputation of some players in Russian strikes targeting liberated areas.